Welcome back to this week's episode of Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles. On today's episode, it's a special episode, 1,000 subscriber special, and oh yeah, we've got baby hognose snakes coming out of the eggs today. Stick around. The most exciting part about breeding reptiles is when, especially if it's an egg-producing reptile, you go in your incubator and you see a little slit in one of the eggs. And that's because most reptiles have an egg tooth and hognose snakes are no different. So these babies here, one, I just saw a little bit of a slit in the egg this morning, so I knew today was the day to cut eggs. We're going to get to the bad egg in a minute, but we've got 5 good ones that I think are still good, and we've got one that has this little head sticking out of the egg. And the reason that you want to cut the eggs is because sometimes in captivity, or in the wild even as well, hognose snakes or any reptile might not be born with an egg tooth. An egg tooth is what they use to slit the shell, and that's what allows them to get out of their egg. If they're born without it in the wild, well, natural selection, these things will die. But it's captivity, there's no reason to let these things die because it doesn't have an egg tooth, which falls off in the first day of its life anyway. So let's cut them open, make sure that they can get out safe. And of course, we're not bringing the snakes out of the eggs, we're just cutting them open enough that you can see that they're in there and leaving a little flap so they can get out. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing is you gotta have yourself a clean scalpel, and if you have a girlfriend that works at a veterinary office, then you're in luck. You can also use just a safety razor blade. These things literally for a pack of 5 probably cost you $1. They're super cheap. I'll put a picture of it in the top left-hand corner or somewhere so you can see what those look like. I'm gonna use a scalpel. Now with hognose eggs, they have little windows, and with all eggs, you wanna make sure that whatever way they're laid, they're left that way up. So they have that little air bubble on the top, and that's how they breathe. And if you were to turn the egg upside down, they might drown. And that's what happens if they can't get out of their egg, is they drown to death. That's what happens when you die. Death. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of pull a little bit. You don't want to get their head or any of their scales. You don't want to hurt the actual snake. So we're just going to go very gently and right at the top, because they're going to be resting at the bottom. Let's see how this goes. I've never done this before, but I've done a lot of research and watched a lot of videos and got a lot of advice on Facebook groups. Let's do this. I know there's going to be a lot of goop. I'm trying to do this as gentle as I can. So with eggs, sometimes when you're cutting them, I've seen this in the hundreds of cutting videos that I've watched, sometimes you nick a little bit of a vein. I checked inside there, I definitely didn't hit anything vital, but you do hit a vein sometimes and yeah, they'll bleed. But if you do hit a vein, it's not that big of a deal. Just make sure you're not hacking apart the egg. This one, it's hard to see inside, but it looks like it might be an albino. That's what I'm really hoping, because the parents, one was an albino, the female, and the male was sold to me as a 66% het albino. I didn't have high hopes though, so we'll see how it goes. We're going to cut the rest of them open and see what happens. So it looks like at this point, we've definitely got one normal. He's got his head out. This one to me looks like an albino, and then we've got one over here that looks like it's a normal. So we're going to cut the other 2 and see what happens. My guess is if, in fact, the one that I think is an albino is an albino, we're going to get one more of each. Just my guess. Let's find out. So it looks like we got mostly normals. It's really hard to tell. I'm not experienced at doing this, so we're going to see what happens. It looks like we've got 4 that are normals. 1 for sure we can tell because his head's already out. And it looks like 1 is an albino. So what you do is you just cut them. You leave them to come out on their own because they still have to absorb a lot of that yolk sac. That is the exciting news for today. So first off, thank you very much for letting me hit 1,000 subscribers. That's kind of why we're doing this video. Well, it kind of happened on the same day, so it worked out. But also, I want to add something not as cool too. This is the really sad reality about breeding reptiles. And sometimes this happens. This one didn't make it. This is the one that I cut open this morning because it started to go green and discolored, and it definitely didn't make it, and it's really sad, but that's part of breeding. And I think that in order to bring life into the world, you're gonna have to see a little bit of sadness and death as well. So overall, I'm pretty happy. We got 14 eggs out of her to start. 7 of them were good, and then we only had 6. 1 of them went bad, and then this guy didn't come out. Hopefully all of these guys come out perfectly. I would be so unbelievably happy to have 5 brand new baby hognose snakes, and if one of them is albino, that'll be amazing. But that is basically it for this week. I wanted to share this with you. It's my first time actually getting hognose babies. I'm super excited about it. And of course, because I do videos every Monday and Thursday, that means that I'll see you on, what day am I putting this video out? Thursday?
Monday. You'll see me on Monday.
Wait,
because you're putting it out on Thursday.
Right. And because I do videos every Monday and Thursday, that means I'll see you on Monday.